Hello, welcome to World Talks from Reykjavik, Iceland. My guest is Margaret Williams of the Harvard Kennedy School, where she leads Arctic research. Margaret, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So, we're at the Arctic Circle conference, but this time around, environmental and climate issues seem to be taking backstage, and hard security is on. So the question is the Cold War back?
Oh gosh, the $60 million question. I don't know, I wouldn't say the Cold War is back. Certainly there are new tensions in the Arctic, and this is definitely a topic that is getting great attention. I would like to see, of course, more attention on the environmental issues, because if people are going to survive a very, very difficult future created by climate change impacts on the Arctic, we need to be working together, and we need to be taking care of the environment as well.
If I understand correctly, you advocated for maintaining some kind of dialogue, scientific and environmental dialogue with Russia in particular, within this Arctic framework. But it's becoming increasingly hard given the nature of events, the war in Ukraine.
Absolutely.
So, what's your remedy for this?
Well, it's true. I have advocated for that, and I am from Alaska. I have been living there for the last 25 years, and cooperation between scientists in Alaska and Russia has been essential for our ability to understand what's happening in the Arctic, to understand the status of our shared wildlife populations. The U.S. and Russia are very, very close geographically in that part of the Arctic. We share a long coastline, not a coastline, we share a maritime boundary. We share many migratory species, a shared ecosystem. We shared many cultures. This area, one area which is emblematic of all of those things, is the Bering Strait. And that has been a place where scientists have worked together, and also our Coast Guards have worked together over many years, the Russian Coast Guard and the American Coast Guard, to prepare for environmental disasters. And so that's the kind of cooperation.
And that's gone? Or
yes,
is it still
yes.
happening?
When Russia invaded Ukraine for the second time, the full-scale invasion, the U.S. ended all governmental relations, except for at the very high level of nuclear arms. And there are a few multilateral forums where Americans and Russians still meet, but bilateral cooperation has pretty much come to an end. And that work between the Russian Marine, it's called the Marine Rescue Service. The Russian Marine Rescue Service and the U.S. Coast Guard are no longer working together in the Bering Strait.
And what is the impact of that?
The impact is that we are very, very vulnerable to an environmental catastrophe, in my view. We have seen increased shipping through the Bering Strait, and we can talk more about the Northern Sea Route. Russia has pivoted more toward China as a trade partner, as the West imposed sanctions after 2022. And we have seen much more vessel traffic coming through the Bering Strait. And that has put the marine environment in a perilous situation, because our agencies and our scientists are no longer working together to show what's at stake and to prepare for and to prevent accidents.
In a sense, that's inevitable in a situation when it's becoming confrontational, the sort of old-style confrontational between Russia and other Arctic nations. And we heard here at this conference from ministers and experts saying, in a sense, this is Russia's fault for this development. Or do you think the United States could have played it differently?
An environmental catastrophe doesn't have to be inevitable. And even during the Cold War, scientists from the US and the Soviet Union and the West and the Soviet Union collaborated. And here we are in this new period of tension. And I think for the sake of our environment, for the sake of humanity, we need to have the people at the working level at least communicating about the very vulnerable situation that we have with respect to oil spills in this sensitive marine environment.
So are you saying the situation now is even worse than during the Cold War when it comes to scientific cooperation?
It seems that things were, there was a formal structure for U.S. and Russia nuclear scientists to communicate, and the formal structure for other scientists now to work together has fallen apart on a bilateral basis. As I mentioned, there are a few multilateral forums where Russian scientists are communicating with Western scientists, but that one-to-one bilateral effort in the Bering Strait, which is such an important area globally, is not happening.
Right. Well, President Trump has offered repeatedly to Vladimir Putin an improvement in bilateral relations if Putin finally moves towards real peace in Ukraine.
Yes.
Well, so far that produced very little effect. So, where's the space for reviving this
That's
cooperation
true.
if even business doesn't attract Mr. Putin?
Yes, well, that is true, and no matter what, no political concessions can be given to Putin. I mean, the invasion of Ukraine and Putin's and the Russians' army's behavior in Ukraine is absolutely unacceptable and must be stopped. So. At the same time, if a little door could be opened with conditions, I do think that could be overall serving humanity. But resolving the problem in Ukraine, of course, is of paramount importance.
And you mentioned the environmental impact of more shipping, and we just recently, I think this week or last week, the Chinese container ship tested the northern route coming
Yes.
to Europe from China.
Yes.
Is this significant? Can this grow, or what is your take on this?
Absolutely, it is so significant. And just for your viewers, I want to emphasize that we are living in an unprecedented time with respect to the Arctic Ocean. As many people here, the warmer sea and air temperatures are causing the Arctic sea ice to melt. There will always be sea ice in the winter reforming, but within our lifetimes, within just probably a decade, we will have summers that are entirely ice-free. That is just unprecedented. It's extraordinary. And I think of it as a new ocean opening up on the planet, where we have all of this new commerce and industry rushing to take advantage of that. So there are lots of environmental impacts that come with new shipping. For example, vessel traffic brings the risk of oil spills, and I'd love to talk more about that. Vessel traffic introduces underwater noise, which is very disruptive to the ability of marine mammals to communicate. Vessels emit large amounts of polluting emissions, and black carbon in shipping emissions is an accelerator of melting sea ice and snow cover. We know that currently 20% of the loss of sea ice and snow can be attributed to black carbon. So shipping introduces a whole host of environmental impacts. Not to mention ports.
Yeah, but the global economy depends on shipping, and it's why would we think that this particular region is suddenly supposed to be out of it if, for example, it saves time and money and cost, and also the environmental footprint, because if you don't have to sail all around the world to Europe from China, then maybe it's a plus.
Maybe the global economy may depend on shipping, but humans depend on a healthy marine environment. And we have a chance to get things right in the Arctic. We don't have a fully developed protocols for shipping and industry in this region. And so there are a lot of things that can be done to reduce noise of underwater shipping, to reduce pollution. There can be switching to heavy fuel, to cleaner fuels. Ships can take lots of measures to improve their practices and reduce risk to the environment. And unfortunately, that is not happening fast enough. Not only is that not happening fast enough, but there's really some backsliding, and I would say Russia is allowing some very poor practices in shipping to occur.
Such as?
Well, for example, over 60 vessels now transporting fuel within the various oil products within Russian waters, not along the entire sea route, are single-hulled vessels. And many of them are quite old, up to 50, 60 years old. You might remember the Kerch Strait oil spill in the Black Sea last year. That was those two ships cracked in half like toy boats when they got caught up in this storm in the Black Sea.
So are you saying that it's a disaster in waiting?
I think that between the lack of international cooperation to prepare for oil spills, to put in these preventative measures, and the use of aging infrastructure, the absence of high standards, yes, I do think that we are very, very vulnerable to a major environmental catastrophe in the Arctic.
Margaret, thank you very much for your time and your insight.
Thank you on that cheerful note.
Wasn't very cheerful, but
I'm
honesty is a value.
Thank you very much.
And that's all we've got for you for now, but stay on with us for more interviews from the Arctic Circle.